Hello, it is that time of year again when I tell you about my favourite books of the year. Now, I've tried to keep my reading down this year, which seems ridiculous, but I love to read and I've been doing so much reading over the past 5 years of working in publishing and reviewing books online for you guys. But this year I wanted to do more writing and I wanted to get my life together a bit, but despite taking my Goodreads challenge from 52 books down to 40 books, I still managed to read 47 books this year, and DNFs did not finish about 20 books, which is ridiculous. But there is a ridiculous amount of shit out there, guys. Or just the stuff that I just did not get on with, and that's good to know because I think it means I'm reaching for stuff that I'm not sure about whether I'd like. And some of the books in this pile that have made it to my favourite books are things that I reached for not being entirely comfortable that I would like them, or not being entirely familiar to me. So I think it's good that those books have been welcomed into my life because of that impulse. But bear in mind that it does mean that you will DNF a lot more books. And I don't think that means that you're bad at choosing books. I think that means that you're giving everything a fair chance to be your favourite book. So I have a rule where I read up to 100 pages of a book. I have to read 100 pages of the book before I DNF it, really. And if I get to that point and I stop trusting the author, I feel like I already have a sense of what the book's like and it has nothing else to offer me. It's just get in the bin. It's been done, and it's felt so good to do that. So it just means that the books that have made it to this massive pile behind me, it's been because I bloody think they're brilliant, and at the 100-page mark was still absolutely sold. So yeah, these are in no particular order. I had enough trouble getting it down to 10. So here are the books that I love this year. I would highly recommend them. I think they are the best of the best in the industry right now. Number 1, Theyre There by Tommy Orange follows, is it 9 or 10 characters as they head towards this point of arriving at a powwow at the end of the book, and you kind of know that's where the book is going from the very beginning, and all of the characters have some kind of reason to be at the powwow. Perhaps it's their first time and they're meeting an estranged relative, they're organising the powwow, they've got bad intentions for the powwow, but it's this narrative that pushes forward all these different characters, and it's not pushing towards a point. It feels more like it's a suction plug. It feels like a whirlwind spiralling downwards, and all the characters seem to be hitting walls in their lives, but are somehow pushed forward by this narrative momentum, and it's just spiraling faster and faster until you literally feel sick while you're reading the book because you're just like, what is gonna happen? It has this huge gut punch at the end. It doesn't lean on that for the rest of each tiny section to be strong on its own. If each one was a short story, I'd have been really satisfied with the writing and the way it's written. It doesn't use the promise of its ending as a crutch. It's set in modern day Oakland, told from the perspective of characters with Native American heritage. We don't hear enough of those stories, especially modern day ones. There's something cool about it because it literally can't ride on the laurels of reference in history, and it doesn't need to, because it is such a unique and special entity in itself. I feel like Tommy Orange does have points to make about the integration and tensions of native communities with dominant whiteness, but it also isn't pushing that. It's demonstrating it, and moreover making it about character study and the eccentricities and intricacies of each actual human in this book. Humans live in this book, not characters. They're humans. They are fully formed. I believe they live in the world somewhere. Humans. I didn't hear enough about it this year in the UK, so if you want to pick it up, it's beautiful, and also the cover is Sheila, Heti, Motherhood. I've talked about this before, so I won't go on too much about it, but I think you can see from all of the post-it notes I have in it that I bloody loved it. Sheila Heti is a really unusual writer. She has really unusual writing processes, and she does this mix of memoir and fiction, and it really is fiction because I think there is something in the distancing of women's honesty from women's tell all, overshare stories. So I like the fact that it is a fictionalized account of somebody that feels like it could be Sheila talking but isn't. All about the decision to be a mother, what she feels like she owes to her mother, trying to extrapolate horrible duty culture of giving your body over to childbirth if you don't really want to, and the honest things that you want to ask about motherhood or think about the choice to become a mother that you feel like you shouldn't say. She says it, but with this grace and honesty that really is it should be a choice, and it's okay to have children, but it's also so okay not to have children, and why can't people understand that and internalize it properly. So yeah, it's really good. I won't go on about too much because I already have before, but like, God, this book shifted my plates. Reviews with Alina. Next up is Vicky Beeching, Undivided. I'm actually thanked in the back of this book. Vicky Beeching is a very famous worship leader who, when I grew up in like evangelical Christianity, was like a household name, and I had all her albums on my shelf, and like a lot of the songs that I used to lead worship with were like songs that she wrote. I remember this moment when I was like out of Christianity, living my happy liberal life, and I heard that Vicky Beeching had come out as gay, and I also heard the reaction of my community, or what I see sometimes as the community I grew up in, the backlash from huge organisations that I thought were totally nice was totally horrific. And the general backlash that she got online was like, so to some of you watching might feel medieval, but is very much part of like the culture I grew up in's present. This is her memoir. It's called Coming Out, Becoming Whole and Living Free from Shame. It's Vicky's experience bottling up her sexual identity to the point where it made her very ill. She was hospitalised for stress. She came out eventually as gay and was dropped by her record label on the clause of morality. America, my friends. So Vicky moved back here and has been speaking out openly about her experiences and LGBT rights, and has been like totally firm in her beliefs and thoughts, but also totally humble and patient with people and explaining things to people slowly. And this book is all about her, but also about the people around her, and trying to have a productive discussion, not just with Christians, but with the general like traditional understanding of homosexuality. She's still a Christian. She talks about how it shouldn't even be a thing, that we have to reconcile homosexual identity with the Bible. And she's really like, Vicky is a beautiful songwriter, but she's also very academic and very clever and sharp. I love this memoir. I thought it was a really interesting thing of her like going off to study and then getting this huge record deal and spending years and years touring, but also being excluded as a woman from lots of spaces as a Christian. And a great narrative story, as well as just like a straight memoir about her thoughts and feelings about Christianity versus gayness. I love that Vicky isn't about deleting people or cancelling people for their like brainwashed beliefs. She's there to like bring some rationality to the debate as well as her own experience. So very much recommend Undivided by Vicky Beeching. Next up is a poetry collection I've already reviewed, so I'll leave the review below. But it's a poetry collection by Morgan Parker, and it's called There Are More Beautiful Things Than Beyonce, and it is a stunning collection of poetry that could be spoken word poetry and probably is performed by her, but is also works so well on the page, which some spoken word poetry doesn't as much. And it's just such a strong collection of like humour and honesty and darkness, and I think it's just a work of art. That's all I'll say about that, but I'll leave my review of it that I've done before below. Another absent friend that I'm gonna have to put a picture up of because I don't have it is Pages & Co. By Anna James. Anna James has been on this channel before talking about Christianity. I don't know if you remember, but she's super cool. She's one of my friends, and she wrote this middle grade book that I was really excited to read. It's the first in the series, called Tilly and the Bookwanderers. It starts off as like quite a intriguing but like standard narrative about like a magical world where a girl and her grandparents work in a bookshop, and she can wander in and out of classic books, and it's very like warm and like fuzzy and nice and nostalgic for people who read classics as a child, which I think I read some as a child, but again, like I didn't read that many classics as a child, so I think if you did, it would probably be more nostalgic for you. But then the thing that really solidified it in my top 10 is like the kind of second half of the book. It is so expansive. There's this whole other world beneath just the kind of structures, the magical structures of the bookshop, and it is like Harry Potter-esque, like deep dive into another whole built up world, and it's so gripping. And I was like reading it on a plane. I was sitting next to my housemate Rowan, and I was just like, Rowan, this thing's gonna happen, and now this, and I was like couldn't breathe, and like at the end of it I was like, nobody speak to me. I just think it was like one of the most engaging middle grade books I've read, and reminded me that I should probably read more middle grade because some of it is damn fine. I just like a good idea executed well, and I feel like this book knows exactly what it is. It knows exactly who its audience is, and it delivers like 100% on its promises. I left my proof in a hotel room for the cleaners in the hopes that they had children and would give it to them, because I was like, I feel dishonest as an adult holding on to this book when kids could be reading it. So I left it in there and sent them a little note being like, thank you for cleaning my room these past few days. So hopefully it's in the hands of an American child right now. We've got The Friendship Cure, which is a book I talked about a while ago and I'll link below, so I won't talk too much about here. Basically, I think I have a lot of anxieties around friendship and how I execute them and how good a friend I am and if I have the right friends and if I'm spending enough time on friends. It just stresses me out a lot, and I'm quite shit at texting people back, and like sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm really bad at friendship, but then I also feel like I make friends easily, and it's just really confused. It just confuses me. But this book, while it didn't solve all of my problems about it, it gave me like questions to ask myself and like made me feel calmer about friendships and answered a lot of questions about my past that I didn't realize I had with like friendships that hadn't worked. And like I just feel like it was like a compass for me to start thinking in a more healthy way about friends. It discusses like the politics of squad goals, bromance and guy love. Can men and women ever just be friends? Yes. Work wives and 9-to-5 husbands. Politics of online friendship and liking your friends' stuff. Friendship breakups, huge thing. The loneliness epidemic and like our struggle to make true friends instead of synthetic friends, and like how to have like more healthy attitudes towards friendship. As I am a self-help junkie, I couldn't not have a good old self-help book on the list, and this is prime real estate for any of you looking to invest in thoughts and better ways to think about things in 2019. Would recommend. Thank you, Kate, our Lord and Saviour. Next is The Wife by Meg Wolitzer. I have a feeling I've already talked about this in a video, and I have a feeling I already promised you a whole video about why I love it. I read The Female Persuasion this year, which is Meg Wolitzer's new book. I got to interview Meg Wolitzer on the Vintage Books podcast. Oh, she was such a pleasure to talk to. And after that, I was like, gotta read more of the stuff that she writes. And the film The Wife had just come out with Glenn Close in it, and I was like, oh, gotta watch it. So I watched it, and then I went back and read the book, which like never happens to me. I feel like going to watch the film is me giving up and saying, right, I'm never going to read the book. Let's watch the film. But instead, I immediately picked up the book after leaving the cinema, as in immediately. On the surface, it seems like it's about the breakup of a marriage, but actually underneath, I think it's about the autonomy of women, the intrusion of the famous author and everything that brings with it, and all the women that have been lost along the way, and all the ways that feminism didn't come soon enough for some people. That is what I would say it's about, of many things. But I still stand by my fact that in 2019 I'd like to make a longer video just about my thoughts on this book, because for something so small, it made me feel so much. Next, The Rights of the Reader by Daniel Pennac. This is translated. You know how I like my translated fic. It's a manifesto about the good of reading and the classist, snobbish structures that are eating it from the inside. If you're a teacher, it'd be a great thing to read and go through the kids, I guess, but also like for me, it was very healing. The rights of the reader, like the right to skip, the right to read anything, the right to have access to books at all. I want to reread it. I have so many tabs in here. Very much recommend this. I'm not gonna lie, I picked it up because Quentin Blake illustrated it. And that's the kind of chances that you should take in this world, my friends. Be More Pirate. This Be More Pirate. Where's the Be More Pirate? How to Take on the World and Win by Sam Conniff. This is a bloody great little manifesto book, not about business, but also about how to organise society and just thinking about things a bit differently. Sam has been doing entrepreneurial things and like helping young people and starting alternative businesses for years, and then he discovered the Golden Age pirates, and he realised that that was like a great way for him to explain as a springboard to learn more about ways that organisations and societies can be structured in a sensible, more fair way. And it's all talking about the idea of what we consider a pirate and what we consider a stand-up naval entity. The hidden history of Golden Age pirates, who were quite feminist, very diverse, pretty socialist, and already had like inbuilt insurance systems and ways to make sure that not one pirate got rich over the other ones. It's just fascinating, and I fully intend to like read this properly again and like think about it even more. Another resolution I think for next year should be for me to reread books that I love, because like a good book is worth making sure you check everything in about it. So that's what I want to say on this book for now. It did give me a framework for something I've wanted to start for a while, which is an Instagram account about the book industry and like changing the book industry and like championing independent bookshops and trying to have a conversation about how we can make the book world better. So I started this thing called Read or Die. If you go on Instagram, it's My Read or Die, and it has a logo like this, and it's all about how stories are essential and they need to be protected. So, as you can tell, it's had an impact. If you read it, it might have an impact on you too. Just saying. Lastly, this book I haven't had a chance to talk about. Oh, fuck off. And then lastly, this book I haven't had a chance to talk about on this channel yet, and I was like, God damn it, why? Nell Dunn, Talking to Women. Silver Press are a publishing house that was started by some women in publishing who wanted to bring forth some books that have been out of print or not published properly by women, and this is one of them. This is a book that went out of print. It's by Nell Dunn, came out in 1964. This new one has an introduction from Nell Dunn herself, looking back at the book, and also from Ali Smith. It's Nell Dunn having conversations with all of these women in the 60s about their lives, like honest conversations about what intimacy is, what pleasure is, how they think they'll die, like real big questions, and also really small questions about the intricacies of their lives. It's all from the perspective of novelists and successful photographers and artists in their own fields, and the pop artist Pauline Botti, and just normal people too. So this woman who works in a butter factory and has a very like normal working class life, and it's just this great it's not a survey, but it's a great like little pins of looks into women's attitudes in the 60s, and they're just transcripts of their conversations over some wine with a kind of precarious recorder balance between them. So it's got this like real like honesty to the way it's written, because it's not written, it's just said, which I loved. It's again like revisiting a time when people weren't sure if the world was going to end. They keep talking about the bomb and these like background huge political shadows behind these women's lives, while they're also trying to just deal with a cheating husband or like lots of kids that they weren't sure if they wanted. And like it's just fascinating, and I haven't really seen it before or had access to the inside of women lives like this from that time period, and I want to see more of this, and I think it's really cool, and I applaud everybody at Silver Press. You also find out like in them what happens to the women after the interviews, and some of them have died. They committed suicide quite fast after the interviews. Some of them are still alive now. It's such a weird like trippy thing to think about, that you're like basically overhearing, you're a fly on the wall of this like these intimate conversations between two drunk women, and like what is to come for them and for the world. It's, I don't know, I really bloody loved it. And if anybody has anything to recommend to me in 2019 that I can read like that, like slam it in the comments, because I want to read more stuff like that, whatever that could be defined as. This is why shelving marks piss me the fuck off. Sorry, I've had some port.
Steady on your fucking alky.
To us. But like that's why shelving marks are this necessary evil baton that we hit ourselves over the head with, trying to put books in different... That's enough. Shut up, Lena. Right. Oh yeah, also I was going to do honourable mentions. Honourable mentions that almost got into the list, but like something beat them but like by no... Like if I hadn't read one of these other books, these would have been in the list. One is White Chrysanthemum, which is about two South Korean sisters who lose each other during the war, and one is made to be a sex slave for the Japanese army, and one stays at home, and they're from this tradition of diving Korean women who were all like the matriarchies of their societies and used to just dive for food, and they were like the main breadwinners, and like the tradition of that is still alive now apparently. And it's like commercial fiction, thriller, has a lot of emotional bite to it, will make you cry at the end, kind of like easy to read, but like also keeping you out of your like cultural comfort zones and like helping you learn about a period in history. I think it sits in a really cool place between like historical fiction and commercial fiction, and like just family ties. I think it's a cool book. It sits in a cool Venn diagram. And then Convenience Store Woman, which I talked about in my translated fiction list that I will link below. Same with Hotel Silence. I also talked about it in my translated fiction list. And these two, like, I loved them. Loved them. In fact, maybe they do deserve to be on the list, but we have constrained ourselves to arbitrary numbers like 10, 1-0. And for some reason that means these books didn't. I regret it. Do you know what? You're number one. You're both... And lesson in not being able to please everyone. Okay, I'm going to go because I'm becoming insufferable. But thank you so much for watching my channel this year. I really appreciate it. I'm having such a fun time, especially with the lovely people who have joined the Gumption Club, which is my Patreon group. So if you want to tip me for these videos and you find value in them and you want to join a creative community of people who are chatting about their own projects, you can go and join the Gumption Club. I'll leave a link below. And yeah, I hope you are busy making your TBRs for 2019. I'm on a no-buy 6-month challenge, so I will be reading the books that I already own, which is exciting. So expect lots more books videos from me. Leave me recommendations of your favourite books that you read in 2018 below, because I want to hear about them. And yeah, I'll speak to you in my next one. Frogs Nog out. No more port for me. No more filming in port. Definitely not. That's the end. Be more pirate